of a white Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone. This is the Coaching Life Podcast. I'm Pat Martin, here with my friend Chris Stewart. How's it going, Coach?
Going well.
Good.
Merry Christmas.
10th day of our 12 Days of Coaching episode, or series here, I guess we'll call it, as we lead up to Christmas Day. Coach, I went out to run the other day.
You like running?
I hate it. I hate it, Coach. And to be honest with you, I didn't go out because I never got that far because I hate it so much. But I wonder if it's because of all the times that I had to run in youth sports as punishment.
You think that's why you hate it now?
I don't know. I wonder.
There's a theory.
What do you think?
There's a theory out there that suggests that, actually.
We're going to talk about running as punishment today. And there is a theory that says, if coaches use running as a punishment for a number of things, that could create a negative impact on the way that individual sees, healthy habits, really, because running.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah, it's good for you.
It's
right.
good. You should want to run, What do you think? What's your initial thoughts here?
Well, here, let's set up a scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, so inevitably,
Or a couple.
Yeah, there are different scenarios for why people use running as punishment, but I think that inevitably the big one is an athlete messes up in some way.
Right.
Right, an athlete messes up.
Let's say
a
from
standard.
Yeah, like a skill.
Ooh, yeah.
Well, focus too. Skill. Let's say they, in baseball, they let a ground ball go through their legs.
So it made errors.
Physical errors, yes.
Or we popped up too much.
Right.
We've been working on driving the ball. So, all you're doing is popping up, so we're going to run for that. I actually read a story about a team that whenever one of their players took strike three, went down looking on strike three, they had to sprint to the right field foul pole and back to their dugout. And I thought, wow, that's odd. I mean, that's crazy. Well, what my first thought was? Here's my first thought. I'll bet you that team leads their league in swinging at bad pitches on strike three.
Oh, that's a great point. Yes. I know. I was going to say, what about the instances in which they shouldn't have swung?
Well, that's the thing is, hey, kids like, hey, I'm going to be punished if I look at strike three, so I'm just going to swing it. I'm swinging it wherever it's at.
Right.
And sometimes you shouldn't. We've talked about taking strike three before.
That's a big topic. It's a polarizing topic.
It is. Well, I'm fine with kids taking strike three.
I am too.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah. Well, that's another day.
So I guess you could say I would never make them run for it, but even if I was against it,
right,
I wouldn't make them run for it. I lean, and this has changed. I think when I was younger, I used physical activity like running. I mean, running's the easy one, right? You're going to run until you puke, that kind of thing. We use it as punishment, and I'll be honest with you, I think I used it because I wasn't a very smart coach. I think I used it because I did not have another answer for how to, how to help my kids, how to push them beyond the level of making mistakes, being more disciplined in the way they played. Sometimes when punishments were needed, like maybe it wasn't a thing like a physical tool, like a skill or making errors. I think that's dumb. We can set that aside. I mean,
I agree. I think that's for sure
making people run for missing free throws and things like that.
Let me give you a different one.
How does that address the problem of missing free throws?
If you're missing free throws,
has nothing to do with a free throw.
Put them on the free throw line and practice and have them shoot 400 free throws
until they can't hold their arm up anymore.
Right.
Well, if you really want to do that, that's fine.
What if they lose focus and what if you got a couple players that are just fooling around in practice? They lose focus. They're that's probably a better scenario.
Yeah.
And here's my thing with that. See, I have used it. I
have too.
Yeah.
There's probably not a coach out there that hasn't used it.
But let me tell you why I think it. Let me tell you how I've seen it used in a way that I feel like it's successful. Because I think in those times they need to be refocused, But here's what I see a lot of coaches do, and this is what I did too. And I don't know that I did it deliberately. I just did it. I wouldn't even say the running was excessive. It was, a sprint, a suicide. They're on the baseline now, breathing heavy, and the coach is talking. And it gives you a moment to kind of bring them to your voice, to listen to your voice and talk about, some of the reasons they can't behave in the way that they are and things like that. I feel like I've always felt like it's a waste of time running for the most part in practice, unless you're doing it from a condition program perspective. You know what I mean? Unless it's specifically for conditioning, but.
Just simply running in straight lines. I mean, just back and forth, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah. Right. I just if they run and they're pausing, they're breathing, they're not. It's suddenly it's become a very structured situation, and it gives the coach time to say, "Listen, we got to regroup. We got to do better."
So you're saying in that instance, it's a positive. It can be a positive thing.
What you're probably saying is you're going to amplify that time of. Listen, we got to do better, and you're gonna make those that time that you spend communicating with the players a lot more meaningful and powerful.
Yeah, and I think this is a topic that I'm just never going to come to a 100% on one side or the other agreement with. I mean, because I do think that there are positive times. Like I could see, I think it could be. There might be a time to refocus them and say, right now our practice is really poor, and
but are there other ways to do that?
But there probably are, and that's where, you getting better, me getting better as a coach, and thinking, being more creative, being more proactive, thinking about what am I going to do when this situation arises, will come into play. I'd
like to hear some thoughts on this, people. Chime in.
Others,
let us know what you think.
Yeah, maybe we can post a tweet or something and start a comment section, or on Facebook, and more people use that, and encourage people to make comments. But I do think that there are more negatives involved in using running as a punishment than positives. I will say that.
Like, you got to be very
I'm
careful.
probably 80-20, and 80, and then it's negative. It's more negative than positive. And
you better really think about it, I guess I would say. You better really be comfortable with it. It can't be a spur of the moment, you guys are just going to run until you throw up type of deal.
Right. That's impulsive.
Mm-hmm.
And it creates some of the animosity and the negative feelings toward what you're doing that we don't want to have. We don't want to create a negative environment, and so I know people tend, probably listening to this and going, "Oh, you guys are soft," and I would argue we're the opposite, because I'm not saying don't condition.
No,
I think we should condition hard.
Yeah, I agree.
In fact, running is essential. Running fast is essential in being athletic, and being a more athletic team, a more athletic player. So you have to do it. If the only time you do it is for punishment, I think I can argue that you are not going to teach a kid to give maximum effort in the things that they need to give maximum effort in, which is running, if they only do it as a punishment. Or I should say, if they primarily do it as a punishment.
Yeah.
I know there are a lot of teams out there in programs where running is primarily used as punishment, not as conditioning.
Yeah.
They'll do a little bit of conditioning, a little bit of warm up, for the purpose of conditioning. But a lot of times when kids are running, they're thinking, well, what did we do wrong? And if that's the only way they look at it, you're not getting as much out. I don't think you're not teaching them to, I'm not saying love running, but love what running is going to bring you, which is championships, victories. We want to win. We're going to win more games the better condition that we're in. So we're going to do something that's really hard, and that is we are going to take some time to run hard and work hard.
Yep.
Physically.
Yeah, I agree. Application is important. But definitely. And like you mentioned before, a lot of times that if you are running, you're not doing much to fix the problem that you're punishing them for anyway.
Yeah.
So.
In fact, I think you might be creating even more problems. And this is I've pondered this a little bit, and I wonder if there's not more happening that's unseen that we don't realize when we run them excessively between. Usually the running for punishment comes after a game. Things that we saw in a game, and they probably have another game to prepare for. Or something that happened in practice maybe, and you maybe got a game tomorrow. The thing that we're learning, people with more science involved in sports, people are able to learn more about things like recovery time and when you should do certain kinds of There are reasons why football teams structure their practices the way they do in terms of having a light day, walk through day, going with no pads 2 days before, whatever. It's because they need to have them ready for maximum potential performance on game day.
Yeah.
And I think that if we run them into the ground because of something that we're punishing them for, regardless of what the reason, I think their potential to give you the best they can give you in that practice and tomorrow in the game is going to go down because we're taxing their nervous systems tremendously when we do that. If it's not part of our normal, if we don't have a plan for conditioning and we're just using running as punishment, and we're like, well, we're killing two birds with one stone. We're conditioning them too.
Yeah,
but it's not planned. It's not prepared. It's impulsive.
Yep.
And it only happens when we want to punish them. Then we're actually not creating great potential. I'm wondering if there's not a lot more things happening behind the scenes because, one, they need they need more time for recovery, and we have set the athlete back a few days because of what we used as a punishment, which should be used as a conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That's a point that I've never really considered, but I've been pondering that a little bit more. That we want maximum performance out of them, yet we might be negating that by using running as punishment instead of using it as part of our planned program, organized, well structured.
It makes sense. I mean, if you have a big game tomorrow and you spend all day today running to condition for tomorrow, that's not going to work. That's just going to wear you out for the game. It's going to be counterproductive.
There's probably not much data about that, but if you go back and think, okay, how did we perform the next day? I mean, if you reflect on that, I just wonder how much of that
interesting
would be reflected in it. But
good point.
Do you have?
I'm good.
I think there's another. The other thing that I think is a problem is there, and we've touched on it. There's a negative association with punishment, and so when you use running as punishment, then a negative association, a negative mindset gets associated with running,
right?
Which is basically training. We don't, and so what happens is they're going to be less inclined to train.
Yeah,
that they're going to look at every time they go. I'll give you an example. You said at the beginning you hate running. I do too. I'm not a fan of running.
Yeah,
I ran a lot as I was punished by running a lot.
I can't. I remember one time. We can tell that story some other time.
Know what I love to do? I love to lift weights. I love training in that way. Lifting. I wonder if I had to lift weights. This is kind of corny to think about, but if I had to lift weights as punishment, but running was only something that was used as training. I wonder if that would flip flop for me.
Yeah,
I wonder if
that's a good question. I mean, I think
I don't know.
There's studies out there that say yeah. That's kind of the whole basis of this whole topic.
You create psychologically a negative persona.
I can see how that would be absolutely true.
Yeah. So. We probably need to. Wow, we've gone a little long on this one. But,
I bet we have.
But we probably should give solutions. Like we should offer solutions. When I don't even know if we have any. Because of what the common person's thinking of, the common coach right now is thinking of was, well, what do I do then?
Yeah.
Because sometimes they deserve punishment, right?
Yeah.
Right? Or do they? I mean, what do we do that's better?
Heck, sometimes the students will get in trouble at school, and the school administrators will expect punishment in this type of way. So. Yeah. Coach, it's a tough one. I'm thinking in terms of deliverables, and of maybe public deliverables. I haven't really thought about it. I'm kind of on the fly here, but maybe a way just to show the team and the individuals as a whole, this is how you're performing. This is how you're not performing. And maybe that deliverable of, that poster board or that flashing sign
Yeah.
up there that said, "Hey, player D, you were crap today in practice." That might make a difference. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the thing is, if you don't, there's got to be some form of criticism, right? Because if you don't,
there's a consequence, right? There's got to be some form of consequence,
yes.
and if you're dealing with something an individual has done, I mean, one of the best consequences is to not play them.
That's a good point.
They're sitting the bench,
Yeah.
Right.
And
Don't
people
just
don't
say
like
it.
that because
Don't just say it.
it's after the fact. But if as a coach you're telling them, "Hey, I'm watching, I'm seeing, I can't trust you in the games.
Yeah.
You're not going in."
Right.
And then
Right.
and then it comes game time, and
Yeah.
and you're not going in. Those players are wondering why they're not going in. They
Right.
really shouldn't wonder, but that's a good point.
I mean, there are other things that just think about it. Be creative. I mean, sit down with some folks and talk about it. This would be a good group discussion.
It would be. This is a good topic. This is an episode in
it
itself.
should be. Yeah, it's probably why we've gone a little bit longer with it. But we
might make it one if we're not careful here.
Community service. Clean up around the gym. On the field. I don't know. I mean, I'm just things off the top of my head. But I should say this. I mentioned something to you off the air that I think that, or maybe I even said it on the air. But I said I used running as punishment, and I feel like I don't do that as much anymore, but I wouldn't do that as much anymore because I'm evolving in how I think about, in wanting to be a better coach, which inferred that that I didn't see myself as a very good coach or a very smart coach. I think it's a lack of, it illustrates a lack of organization and planning and communication on my part if there's a need for a lot of running as punishment. I mean, if we're having to dish that out a lot, then I'm failing.
I would agree with that.
I mean,
yeah.
It's like Augie Garrido said, I will lash out at my players. I'll make them run. I mean, he didn't say make them run, but it's kind of the same thing. I'll lash out at them, and even as I'm doing it, I'm realizing I don't want to do this. This is my issue.
Yeah.
I'm the one at fault here. But he said, I get mad. I'm like that little boy that says, it's not my fault, it's your fault,
Yeah.
And I think that's what happens to a lot of coaches is we're so unorganized, or we get in such a rut of how we're going to coach, how we're going to do things, that when something happens that we don't like, we're like, the only way to respond is just go run, just go do something that we want to use as training and to make you better. But right now I'm going to use it as a punishment tool. I really think that the best way to deal with this and the best way to keep from having to use running as punishment is to be proactive in your planning as a coach. I mean, at the beginning of the season, say, these are the things we're going to use as consequences. Communicate those things up front. These are our standards. These are things that when we don't, and include hustle in that, when you're not hustling and you're not giving maximum effort, here's going to be the consequence. Now, what's that going to be? I don't know. Let's have that discussion. Let's find out what kind of consequences we're talking about. But if it's you're going to sit the bench. If we have our best player sitting the bench because he's not giving great effort, then he's not our best player.
Yeah.
I mean, your best players are the ones that give the great effort.
Yep.
That's just
in practice.
And especially in practice.
Yeah.
They're leading the way in that sense. But I think that proactiveness will basically it'll probably eliminate.
You're probably right.
It'll eliminate a lot of those moments where the running as punishment is felt as a necessity.
Yep. So the challenge, I guess, to coaches is be prepared for those situations.
Yeah.
How are you going to handle it?
Prepare ahead of time, right?
Right.
Because there's Bing. He's telling us you guys have taken too long.
We went way over.
Yeah. Sorry, Ben.
He's been waiting for
He's
a
like,
while.
I've been holding this note for about 15 minutes, and you guys just keep talking. So
we'll see
we
you
should
tomorrow.
continue that one.
We will.
We need to continue talking about this because it's a good topic. So
a good one.
We'll put an asterisk beside this one.
Day 11. See you tomorrow.